Hello, it's Michelle with Books Cause Insomnia. I'm here today to do a book tag, 50 questions you've never been asked before. The creator is unknown, and I was tagged to do it by my friend AJ Dunn. And I've got a co-host today that you may not have met before. I don't think I've introduced you to her before. We have a new dog. Her name is Olive. You want to say hi? She's relaxing. She was relaxing. What? Well, at least Olive said hi now. I thought this tag was really fun. I wanted to go ahead and film it as soon as possible. And cuddle with my new doggie. Just in case you're wondering, we named her Olive after Olivia Dunham on the show Fringe. They called her Olive when she was a little girl, and she's got a very childlike personality. She's just kind of got this like spunky, fun little girl energy. And then her middle name is Ramona, after my very first favorite book character, Ramona Quimby. Number 1, what's your favorite candle scent? I think my favorite candle scent is probably pine. I love the smell of pine candles. Well, I guess I'm pretty seasonal though, because I really like apple cider or apple pie in the fall, or like some of the falling leaves scents during the fall. And then during the summer, I really like the pineapple, mango, real fruity kind of stuff. And then during the spring, I do also really love coffee scented candles. I always have one here in the library, so maybe that would be my spring one. Number 2, which female celebrity do you wish were your sister? Probably Reese Witherspoon. I like some of her movies, and I know she likes to read a lot, which would probably love nerding out about books, and she seems to have a sense of humor that I really like. Number 3, which male celebrity do you wish were your brother? I would say Keanu Reeves. I think it'd be really fun to have him teach me some fighting moves and some, some of the movements he does in the movies. And I think that it'd be really cool to talk to him, because he just seems like a really honestly nice person. He'd be great to call for advice, like I do with my brothers. How old do you think you'll be when you marry? Well, I was 20 the first time I got married. I can answer that. Not how old I think I'll be. I'm actually on my 3rd marriage. This is the marriage that stuck for me. My first 2 marriages did not last very long. About 2 years in for the first one and 3 years in for the second one, and they were over. And then with Brad, we've been married almost 11 years now, and we're still going strong. Number 5, do you know someone who is a hoarder? Yes, I do. I know a few hoarders, actually. Number 6, can you do the splits? Yep. Number 7, how old were you when you learned to ride a bike? 5? I think it was 5, 4 or 5 probably. I had a tricycle, and then, hi! And then when that wasn't quite enough, I switched over to a bike. And this is kind of funny. I remember my dad didn't really have a chance to teach me a whole lot of things when I was a kid. He was kind of working a lot, and he was really concentrated on teaching my brothers stuff. And when he taught me how to ride a bike on one of these bikes, I remember I had this blanket that I had to have with me all the time. It was a Sesame Street blanket, and that was my blanket. And I had to bring it with me when I was learning to ride my bike. And it's so funny because, so I'm riding along, and he's holding that back bar on those bikes that they had on the back of the seat. And I look over, and he was way behind me watching me ride it without him. And I panicked, and I fell, but the blanket got stuck in the spokes and in the chain, And I think that might be the real reason I fell. But what's funny is I still have that blanket, and it still has, no matter how many times I wash it, it still has a bunch of oil stains from the chains of that bike. Kind of a fun little story. Number 8, how many oceans have you swum in? Just the Atlantic and the Pacific, to my knowledge. I don't think I've swum in any other oceans. Number 9, how many countries have you visited? Canada, a lot as a kid. My brothers were both hockey players, so we were up there every other weekend, I think it was, and for weeks at a time for hockey camps in the summer and such. And then I've been to Mexico a couple times. I've been to Russia, and I've been to Finland. Is anyone in your family in the Army? Not currently. Number 11, what would you name your daughter if you had one? We had picked out, originally we wanted to name our daughter, if we had one, Bevlyn. And then we ended up changing that to Kerrigan, which we were planning on shortening to Carrie. And then we ended up deciding not to keep trying to have kids after a certain amount of time. What would you name your son if you had one? I think the names we had picked out for a son were Dexter and Mattis. As a lot of you know, Brad was in the Marine Corps, and Mattis would be after General James Mattis. Number 13, what's the worst grade you got on a test? An F, obviously. Can you get worse than that? I barely graduated from high school. I just found school so boring. I had a lot of questions. Teachers didn't have the time or the wherewithal to answer my questions. So I lost interest in going to school at a pretty young age. And I skipped school a lot. I mean, I turned it into a fine art. So I barely graduated from high school. At the last minute, like the last 2 weeks of the last semester, I decided to try to graduate anyway. And pulled it out to where I graduated with like a 1.9 GPA. Then went to college a few years later and was somebody who was on the dean's list most of the time I was in college. So it was the other way around in college because I was interested in professors would answer my questions and really help kind of stroke that love of learning that I have. Whereas in high school, teachers just didn't care about somebody that actually enjoyed learning. They just, I don't know, it felt like a procession line that I was going through, and I didn't like that. It wasn't personal enough for me. Number 14, what was your favorite TV show as a kid? Oh my gosh. Okay. As a kid, I made a little list here. Family Ties, The Cosby Show, The Muppets, you know, the cartoon one though. Muppet Babies, that's what it was. Pound Puppies, The Smurfs, The Golden Girls. And then in high school, I loved My So-Called Life. I have it on DVD. I watch it every few years. I just think that show is amazing. Amazing. It's epic. Still, I love that show. What did you dress up as for Halloween when you were 8? When I was 8? I'm trying to think here. I had a Cookie Monster costume. It was one of those plastic ones that came in the box with the mask that you couldn't breathe through. I had, but that was not when I was 8. I'm trying to think. I had a witch costume that my mom and I made together. I also had a clown costume that we made together. That was the other thing. We always made stuff together, which is a very good memory of mine. Thank you, Mom. But I think when I was 8, I was really kind of into Gem and Madonna and stuff. So I think I was a punk rocker that year. Number 16, have you read any Harry Potter, Hunger Games, or Twilight? The only one of those series that I have read is Hunger Games, which I loved. I have not read Twilight. I started to try to read the first book when it first came out, and I just found it too cheesy for my liking. So I don't want to say I read it because I didn't. I got like 50 pages in. And Harry Potter, I've never read. I do have the first book in the series. It's sitting behind you over here on my TBR shelf, and I do plan on reading it eventually. Would you rather have an American or a British accent? Obviously a British accent. American accents are, I don't want to say they're boring. There's quite a few different dialects, but I would love to have a British accent. I think they're so cute. Did your mother go to university? My mom went to, I think she went to school for a couple of semesters, but that was it though. She was too busy being a mom to be able to finish school. Are your grandparents still married? Well, they were when they passed away. All my grandparents are gone now. Have you ever taken karate lessons? Nope. Do you know who Kermit the Frog is? Do I? I have a tattoo of Kermit the Frog on my hip. What was the first amusement park you visited? I think it was Disneyland, but I was so young I don't remember. I think I was like 3 when I went the first time. Which language would you like to be fluent in? Finnish. I love doing genealogy, and I have Finnish heritage, and I've really got into my grandfather's story. He moved to America when he was 17. And it would make genealogy a lot easier if I spoke Finnish, although a lot of the genealogy, like a lot of the documents, are in dialect that doesn't exist anymore. So even people who are currently alive in Finland don't know what some of the words mean, or they have to look it up as well. But I would still love to be able to speak Finnish. Do you spell gray G-R-A-Y or G-R-E-Y? I'm an A-Y girl myself. Is your father bald? No, my dad has a full head of hair. In his 70s. It's pretty good, right? Do you know triplets? I don't know any triplets. Do you prefer Titanic or The Notebook? Yeah, I'm a Notebook person. Not that I don't love the movie Titanic, but I've read The Notebook book multiple times. And the movie, Ryan Gosling, I'm just saying. I think that The Notebook, especially the book, really does what true love is some justice. So many romance novels and books are not really, in my opinion, a very good depiction of what real love is or what I think of as romance. But I'm not a real cheesy, bring me, like, I don't want a dozen roses. I want daisies or something totally original and different that required some kind of thought. I don't want like just what everybody else gets. Or if my husband takes me on a romantic date, I don't want him to do it on Valentine's Day when he feels like he has to and everybody else is doing it. I want him to do it just because. If he gets me flowers, I want him just because, not because it's my birthday or Valentine's Day or anything like that. And so that's what I mean. My idea of romance is just so different than everyone else's. Have you ever had Indian food? I have, and I love it. What's the name of your favorite restaurant? The Golden Steer here in Vegas. I love that place. It's very expensive, but they have good quality food. Otherwise, I pretty much would rather just eat at home with food that was made in my kitchen because I like the way I cook. Have you ever been to Nando's? Nope, no idea what that is. Do you belong to any warehouse stores? I do not. What would your parents have named you if you had been the opposite gender? I asked my mom that. She really wanted a girl. She said she didn't really pick out a boy's name, so she probably would have just named a boy Michael. That makes sense. What's your nickname? Well, my longest nickname was the one my dad gave me. My dad has called me Burrito Bandito from the time I was a little girl. Brad calls me Sweets. What other nicknames do I have? I guess that's it. When I was a little girl, they called me Shelly, my family and everybody. Who's your favorite person in the world? Well, it depends on when you're talking about. My favorite person in the world used to be my grandpa. And he's no longer with us, right? So my favorite person in the world now is Brad. I mean, I have other people that I love too, don't get me wrong, but my favorite person is Brad. Would you rather live in the country or the city? I am a city person. I'm kind of backwards. I want to live in the city and take vacation in the country. Can you whistle? I can. Do you sleep with a nightlight? No. Do you eat breakfast every morning? Yes, I do. Do you take any pills or medication? I do. I've been going down this weight loss journey. The reason I decided to start going on it was my weight was causing so many health problems. I was on a lot of medication, and I have gone off all of it except for my blood pressure medication. I take a lot of vitamins. Number 40, what medical condition do you have? Well, I've mentioned before, I have PTSD. I don't take any medication for it anymore, though. I've figured out how to deal with and control, well, not control, but deal with my anxiety naturally. And I'm super happy about that. And my other health condition, I guess, is I'm anemic. I don't guess I'm anemic, I am. And I have asthma. How many times have you been to the hospital? How many times have I been to the hospital, or how many times have I been hospitalized? Trying to think here. Well, I've had 2 surgeries on my hand. So obviously I went to the hospital for those. But I've been hospitalized 6 times, I think, for my PTSD. What happens is when I used to get panic attacks really bad, they would get so bad, my blood pressure would get so high, they thought I would have a stroke or a heart attack. And so they would hospitalize me and do a bunch of tests, make sure that I hadn't, damaged my heart or anything like that. But also they would try to get the panic attacks to go down, and they wouldn't let me leave until I was calm. And I usually would end up staying there for days. Luckily, that is a thing of the past. That was, I guess you would say, an era of my life, and now I don't have panic attacks that are that bad anymore. I figured out how to deal with my anxiety. Thank God, because that was a nightmare. Have you ever seen Finding Nemo? I have, but it was so long ago. I don't remember much about it. Where do you buy your jeans? Well, I don't know. That weight loss journey I was talking about, I've now lost just over 50 pounds. He's 53 now. So I'm right at the cusp of being, I can wear a plus size or I can wear a standard size. But if I lose any more weight, which I am still going to the gym and still eating good, I'm not going to be plus size anymore. So I'm going to have to find a new place to buy jeans. And I don't know where that is yet. What's the last compliment you got? We were having a discussion, and he said that he liked my observation on something, and he praised my intelligence. Do you usually remember your dreams in the morning? Yes. Very well, too well, to the point where if I tell people about my dreams, it irritates them, because I guess people don't find my dreams as fascinating as I find my dreams. Number 46. What flavor of tea do you enjoy? There is one that I am absolutely obsessed with right now, and I can't remember what it's actually called. So I'll put a picture of it right here. Number 47. How many pairs of shoes do you currently own? I have 23 pairs of shoes. Number 48. What religion would you raise your children to practice? If I had children, I would probably do what my parents did when they were still married. they had decided not to raise us in any religion and to let us decide for ourselves what we believed. And if we wanted to be a certain religion, then they would take us to church and do what we wanted to do. But I really actually liked being raised that way. I liked having, as a child, I liked going to different kinds of churches when I felt like I wanted to start going, and figuring out what I believed and deciding what faith I wanted to be baptized in and all that. That was all my choice, and I would not have chosen differently. So if I had kids, I probably want to do the same for them. 49. How old were you when you found out Santa wasn't real? I'm not really sure. I think I'm in denial, though, because I like to still think that Santa exists. I have that kind of mind where I like to believe and stuff like that. Why do you have a blog? Why do I have this YouTube channel? I started this channel because I love books. I love talking about books. I love watching other videos about books, and I wanted to be part of the fun. I wanted to make booktube friends, find people that were like me, because I feel like in my everyday life I don't really encounter people that love reading as much as I do. Hi! Hi! Oh, I love you too. Oh, not bite. No biting. No biting. Nope. Don't bite. You could really hurt somebody with that mouth. I don't want you to bite anybody. You're so pretty though. Look at you. Oh. So if you did make it this far just for fun, let me know and drop a flower emoji down in the comments, just so I know. Thank you so much for watching.